ladies and gentlemen, this is my second opportunity to address an audience of this caliber. I was asked to speak about Leadership 101. I think it must have been Barasa who gave me that topic. You know, in the university, 101 is the primary unit. It is the first unit, isn't it? That you have to be taken through. Normally it's introductory, but absolutely important because it sets the stage for the rest of the units that will come throughout your academic career. The last one is Leadership 999. As now the more final. But this is important. So I took it to mean that we should look at leadership prerequisites in the public service transformation agenda. The objectives of this presentation are laid out there on the screen to demonstrate the instrumentality of the primacy of leadership in all social organizations, including the state itself, including ministries, departments, agencies, including independent institutions such as Judiciary. Leadership is critical. And number two, we hope to be able to demonstrate the understanding of the imperative of that style, that form, that model of leadership that we usually refer to as transformational leadership in national. There are other models of leadership, but we isolate this one because we believe it is the more critical one in our pursuit of national development. Then we hope to be able to outline the ingredients, the components, the dimensions of transformational leadership style, so far as it applies to our duties, our responsibilities as judicial officers. So, in so doing, we have one aim, which is to inspire you to embrace the values of transformational leadership and discard the values of other forms of leadership which we rule out as being inappropriate, as being unhealthy. Expected outcomes, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that it should be possible for us to express the hallmarks of transformational leadership in discharge of our duties. In other words, as we return to our duty stations, henceforth, we should be able to express the fundamentals of transformational leadership in the course of our duties. It should be clear and obvious for all to see as we go about duties. Number two, we want to be able to satisfy, to fulfill our mandate as a judiciary. Be able to satisfy, to fulfill our mandate satisfactorily, because that is the primary objective of our existence. French, they call it what they call it. The raison d'être of our existence as judicial officers. And finally, we want to be able, in the course of our duties, once we resume work in the stations, be able to attract public trust and public confidence in the work that we do. Because this is important. In other words, it might very well be that it is not entirely up to you to exercise transformational leadership. There could very well be constraints in your task environment, which, although you may so much wish to exercise transformational leadership, but find ways of overcoming those constraints in our workplace and summary. So, ladies and gentlemen, public service transformation is entrenched in that fundamental national development blueprint, which we refer to as the Kenya Vision 2030. Now, as a leader, you ought to have read this document already. Under the auspices of this development agenda, we seek as a nation to create and I want to quote it exactly so that I don't present, to create a globally competitive far away, but I can tell you it's now very close. So it aims to transform Kenya into a newly industrializing middle-income country, providing a high quality of life to all citizens in a clean and secure environment. You can interpret high quality of life to mean also the realization of justice. Right? Now, ladies and gentlemen, the realization of the goals of the Kenya Vision 2030 is the joint collective responsibility of all of us as public servants. And you, being public servants, you are roped into that agenda. That we will not be able to realize this goal unless public servants step forward aggressively to pursue this vision. Now, the duty of the judiciary, so far as that vision, mission is concerned, is outlined clearly under the so-called what we call the political pillar, the economic, social, and so on. And increasing service availability and access has been underlined in that document, or reducing barriers to justice. Now, I suppose that responsibility lies square in your hands. Some of us, there is also the element of justice as you make decisions as CEO and so on. You must make sure that your decisions are just and so on. But the obligation is not as strong as it is in respect of judicial officers. So increasing service availability and access, or reducing barriers to justice. Streamlining the functional organization, including professionalization of legal and judicial institutions to enhance interagency cooperation. You know, that's why I wrote it to the Chief Justice and said, listen, I would like to talk to judges. Like, I think it was in pursuit of the idea of cooperation. Because, you know, in the university, when we're teaching these things, we say, look, there are 3 arms of doctrine. One of the hallmarks of every is that they must be separated from each other. And that they must be independent of each other. More importantly, the judiciary is independent, you know, which means that it should not be possible that a permanent secretary should seek to interact with judges. But that would be a naive interpretation. In the university, we say that because, you see, usually it is one-on-one. And you see, these people will have recently come from high school and so on. So you have to cast the knowledge in ways that avoids controversy. So it is safe to say they are independent. In the case, Montesquieu underscored this, the spirit of the laws. And then you leave it at that. Because if you try to go into detail, it cause confusion. But later on, say, listen, in 101, I said that they are independent of each other. But now in 301, you have just a bit, yeah? Because you see, there is only one government in the nation. One government. And that government must fulfill its mandate. And the matter of who is doing what and so on is a detail that citizens have no time for. And so on. So, anyway, cooperation, and then inculcating a culture of compliance with laws. That's quite obvious for the judiciary. Our work with the judiciary is to make decisions on the basis of the laws as handed down. And decent human behavior. I think that word is even so critical. We'll come to it shortly. So, here is what the Kenya Vision 2030 expects of us in the judiciary. And then it gives us a number of principles that should guide our conduct and performance of our duties, one of which is public participation, you know, respect for the Bill of Rights, national values, gender equality, sovereignty of the people, and so on. It is the responsibility of the public service, remember we said, to realize the goals of the Kenya Vision 2030, including vision. Now, for the public service to be able to fulfill that mandate of championing the pursuit of Kenya Vision 2030, it must be reorganized. It must be a rare version of public service, which is a modern and results-focused public service. Is a prerequisite for the country's socio-economic transformation. And that public service reform will, in addition, ensure that the government provides an environment that is suitable for the private sector to thrive and thus take the lead. So the point here, ladies and gentlemen, for the public service, which includes all of us, to be able to fulfill its mandate under this vision, it needs to be a modern and results-oriented public service, meaning it should abandon the hitherto rather traditional workways, as we shall see shortly. Now, the Kenya Vision 2030 document, ladies and gentlemen, bestowed the responsibility of creating that model of public service, that transformative public service, to the Kenya School of Government. I didn't mean this. I'm not being biased. This is just the vision document I'm interpreting. So that a Kenya School of Government stated, will be established to provide research and training for transformative leadership to the highest international standards, and that it will provide instruction for improved performance in all aspects of public service, and that will devise ways to inculcate public service values and ethics and transformative leadership. And then it says that the school will benchmark its performance to the most distinguished institutions in its category. And I can confirm to you, ladies and gentlemen, no school of government anywhere in the world is ahead of us. Makofi bwana. But truly, we have benchmark. You see, we've gone even to Harvard Kennedy School, we've gone everywhere. And I can tell you, our programs are second to none. We have tried to do this. It's the responsibility of the Kenya School of Government to bring about the transformation in the public service that is required, so that the institution of the public service may be able to effectively fulfill its mandate as the agency that will drive the Kenya Vision 2030. All right. So, it goes on and on that the school should do more through its curriculum and so on and so on. And I have emphasized this already. Let me go on to say, therefore, the realization of the Vision 2030 is a function of transformative public service leadership. Put differently, it will not be possible for us to realize the goals of the Kenya Vision 2030 unless we succeed in transforming the public service and to enable the public service to adopt, embrace, express the values of transformative leadership and move away to the traditional forms of leadership, marking time, routine, administration, control, self-serving, so that when clients come to you, you kind of feel that they are an interruption, they are a nuisance, and yet they are why you exist. So the traditional public administration had that tendency to regard public servants, to regard clients as a nuisance. Just like a doctor regarding patients who come in bleeding as a nuisance. See, why are you a doctor? If we didn't have patients in society, in human life, some bleeding, we would not have you as a doctor. So, So we need to bring about that attitude change in public service so that we put the interests of clients first, so that we are servants and clients are masters. You know, during the colonial period, ladies and gentlemen, if you read the documents in the archives, official records, and so on, even the governor, never mind the colonial system that existed, where the Africans were not even citizens, subjects, and so on. Never mind all of that. Still, when the governor replied a letter written by a villager, he signed off with the words, "Your most obedient servant, Governor Evelyn Barry." And then there was the principle that all letters must be printed, all of them. You see, however they look, whatever the handwriting, whatever the English, it doesn't matter. Your responsibility is to reply. I had this encounter one time, and somebody would write a letter after that. When I replied, then he writes again. This time, he even turns the full stop and writes in the margins going that way. So at some point I thought, now, even this principle of replying to all letters, I think it has a limit. Now this one now, what do I say? So, but still, I remember writing to the district commissioner and attached all those copies. And we asked the district commissioner to check to see what the problem is with this individual, because his location was like indicated in the letter. And the district commissioner later on wrote to us and said, "Oh, this gentleman hails from this sub-location, so on and so forth, and he has a mental challenge." Only then were we able to put the matter to rest. So this is how much of servants we are to this part. So when somebody comes to your office, however the fellow looks is your duty. Yours is to smile. You understand? Just smile and deal with the person. But the one you really have to pay closest attention to and smile the most is the one who does not seem to understand things quickly. That's the individual you pay the greatest attention to. You understand? Don't think that these ones who speak good English and so on are the ones who... No, those ones seem to have already been sorted out. They already know a lot and so on. But these are the ones. Even step down from your seat. You might still do that. Step down, go to the guy and listen to the guy. Eh? It doesn't matter. You are afraid of being knocked. As we shall see shortly, a leader must not be afraid. See? So in other words, the point is that it is the kind of public service we seek to create is one that is subordinate to citizens and not the other way. So the meaning of leadership, let's just take the second last one. This is drawn from dictionary. You know, it has many, the concept has many meanings, but the one we want to use is one that defines leadership as the set of characteristics that makes a good leader. The set of characteristics that makes a good leader. So, primacy of leadership. We want to say here that without leadership, society will collapse. Straight away. You don't need to be, they used to say, rocket scientists to know that. Without leadership or with poor leadership, society will. And the same applies to leadership of organizations, however small. If the leadership is bad, poor, and so on, that organization must have necessity collapse. That's how so important leadership is. And Thomas Hobbes, who studied law also, like this, you know, this 17th century English philosopher, he was credited by helping us at the conceptual level understand the importance of government in society. Because the point of departure is that you imagine you have a society, no government, meaning no leadership. What kind of society shall we have in there? It's a society where every person is unto himself, and what you get will depend on the ability, you know, however modest, and so on and so forth. So it is a society which in the end life is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and what? It's an anarchical society. In the absence of. So his argument is that for us to move from an anarchical society to a civil society where there's order, then we need leadership and hence government. So this, okay, Thomas Hobbes is the origin of government. Leadership. But someone once said, and I didn't put this in the slides because I'm not sure about the origin. You know, I have to be held accountable to what I write. Somebody said the word leadership is derived from the behavior of sheep. Sheep will normally have the lead sheep. Yeah? The lead sheep. So wherever the lead sheep goes, the rest follow. Even if it is in the fire, the rest, they don't question. And so the word leadership is drawn from that. Now I'm not sure about it. That's why it's not on the screen. Now, so that's the point, ladies and gentlemen, that leadership is critical for organizations. Now, if leadership is bad, is inept, is ineffective, then you can expect the organization to decline, entropy, and even to collapse altogether. And there are institutions, organizations that have collapsed, such as going into receivership, right? Just because of leadership. You can't easily blame the environment. The environment is there for leadership, for the leadership of the organization to deal with nothing. So you couldn't blame the environment. The problem lies inward, and that is leadership. So leadership, poor leadership can lead to decline of institutions. So success and prosperity of organizations can be explained from the standpoint of leadership. So my question to you is, where does your station lie on the continuum between the one extreme, state of nature, and on the other extreme, civil society? Like closer to anarchy or closer to prosperity? Now, you have to answer. So these are heads of stations. Yeah, so. Okay. How much of blame or acknowledgement could be attributed to your leadership? In other words, if your station is doing badly, how much could that be attributed to your able leadership? If it's doing badly, how much of that could be attributed to your poor leadership, and vice versa? Because we are agreeing that it all depends on leadership. All right, so there are social problems in society, ladies and gentlemen, that require leadership to solve. These are just some of the problems. We are a third world country, therefore, doing badly in all of these different ways you can see on the screen. Therefore, we hope that through the Kenya Vision 2030, we can be able to achieve. Now, organizational problems, this screen I left that we have already answered, saying organizations that have declined. Some entirely collapsed and wound up. We are unlikely to wind up in the judiciary. Because then we will be in trouble. So no one, we won't wind up. We won't wind you up. But we can worry about you. Isn't it? Worry a lot. Because without you, you suffer a lot. So, and I already explained how we suffer when we fail to provide able leadership. Therefore, the organization begins to decline. So, ladies and gentlemen, there are types of leadership. The books talk about lots of models of leadership and so on. But this is my own modeling as I understand leadership to be. You might not find it in any text until maybe I write a young article about it. Number one, we could have predatory leadership. Now, this is a leadership, ladies and gentlemen, that is destructive. Someone is appointed to a position of leadership, and the individual embarks on a mission to destroy that organization, to vandalize it. All the good that he found there, I don't want to use shit out. We have to look after our guys. Don't make bad statements about it. So don't correct me, he or she. Let me just say, all the good he found, usually they are the men. The fellow destroys. If it was making profit, it begins to make losses. If it was effective in service delivery, it no longer becomes effective. Services suffer, and so on. And so the individual converts the organization into personal resource to vandalize, and is in a hurry. So, if the institution had land, allocate land, proteges and proxies. You know that guy? If it had vehicles, the individual arranges for the vehicles to be boarded, therefore auctioned. He is in a great hurry. Actually, let me. You know, I recall when I was PS in Home Affairs, an individual walked into my office and he said that he wanted a slice of land. So I asked him, why would you want a piece of land? He said it had been given to his father 70s. He said, but why was your father located public land? Yes, what? And was so and at that time, I was just fresh from the university as a lecturer. I couldn't understand these things. So I told him, I will give you that piece of land if you promise to come with a pickup and take it away. Go and hide it. But for as long as you keep it in the open, even when I'm gone, someone else will come. So at that point, I walked to the door, I opened my office door to encourage the fellow to. And that's partly why I sought to address the judges. People had grabbed public land and somehow obtained title deeds. That's why. Why is that? Why should it be your land? If you want a piece of land, you know what to do? You go to the cooperative, you borrow, then go and buy. That's how I got money. I don't understand your people and I don't understand it. So anyway, we were able to petition the courts using the established procedures, and I demonstrated this piece of land was allocated to this individual fraudulently. If not, let him use evidence that we, as a ministry, gave it to him. And else can give away land that belongs to somebody. That's how I saved. That's how I saved, ladies and gentlemen. So there's this predatory leadership. Stay away from this game plan. Number two, there's the model of leadership you could refer to as superintending leadership. In other words, this is a kind of leadership. It's not as bad as the first one, but it's still not so good because the hallmarks of this variant is to maintain the status quo. Keep things the way you are. And it's not as bad as it, but still, just going to show disadvantages. Maintains the status quo. If you found the land that belonged to the organization had been taken away, it's not you gave it away, right? So, there you go. It's like that verse in the Bible, I forget which one, that where, the master was leaving to go on safari and gave talents to 3 guys. There's a guy who kept other under a mattress. You know that guy. He's not as good as the one who invested. All right. Then finally, ladies and gentlemen, we have transformational leadership. This is the one I want us to dwell upon. And talk about transformational model. You see, this is the kind of leadership upon arrival in office, inspects the state of affairs, and very quickly identifies weaknesses and shortcomings, and develops a game plan to bring about positive change, to improve on the situation. In other words, the leader rejects the state of affairs as inadequate, that we could do better. Let's say we could do better. And therefore develops a program of action to bring about positive change so that the organization can realize its mandate more fully, serve citizens better and better, so that its processes change. If it requires the law to change, so be it. There are procedures for initiating amendments to the law. If the law is the problem, initiate amendments to the law. If there will be those clauses that must be amended, those that must be repealed altogether. So in fact, the entire act will actually go in the pursuit of, so it's possible to bring about improvement. So this is the kind of leadership style that we are emphasizing in this report. All right, so what are the hallmarks of the transformational leadership style? It is, number one, the appreciation, the recognition that your responsibility is to bear the burden of others. To bear the burden of others. If you don't have the preparedness to bear the burden of others, then you are not qualified to be the leader. You can write to Madam Registrar and say, he hit me so. He made a mistake. If Jesus tried, even crucified me. So who am I? But you know, Jesus eventually resurrected. So you're okay. So that you should understand, and truly that's the point. That as a leader, you are responsible for solving the problems of the organization or of the whatever entity for which you are the designated leader. In your case, you have to bear the burden of the accused. You must make sure. And Jesus says, for all those who labor, hey, how does it go? All those, brother, they are come to me and I shall give you. Yes. Now, you in your station, you should call a baraza and announce that for all of you who labor under the weight of injustice, come to me and I shall give you rest. Especially if you are the head of station. Alright? So the accused, the perpetrators of crime are your business. They are your responsibility. Bad though they may be. The victims are looking. The public is looking. Humanity as a whole, wherever it may be in the world, is looking upon you. So this is how difficult leadership is. Even Muhammad had to run to exile. People are, Jesus, we don't see this. There was persecution, so on. Leadership is no walk in the park. Otherwise, as I say, right to Madam Registrar, I tell her the heat is too much. Let somebody else. So this is how it is. In Christianity, they say we should strive to be like Jesus. He came for the cross. He died for our sins. And therefore, we must strive to be like Jesus. And you know, there's a verse that we must strive to be shown that society. And with pleasure. That's most critical. With because leadership is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to demonstrate that you are somebody. That otherwise you're just a happy-go-lucky fellow. Qualified. What can we do about that? The only way that can be meaningful to us is when you take away our load of injustice from our shoulders and give us this. This is the last part. And I think there are about 6 hallmarks of transformational leadership I want to mention. So number 1 is the preparedness to bear the burden of the people you lead. Number 2, a leader must demonstrate technical superiority in discharge of duties. Now, if the people you lead are smarter than you, I would never want to be in that situation. If your juniors perform their duties more methodically, more effectively, with greater finesse than you, the leader, it's time to write that letter to mother. Why? What moral ground can you have to stand to claim to be the leader when your performance is poorer than the people you purport to be leading? Throw in the towel. Throw in the towel. Let me use your example, the example drawn from your situation. You, the head of a station, the cases you conclude, they go to appeal, one by one, one after the other. And the ones your junior disposes, they withstand the test of the appeal court approves. Another one, the appeal court, even the magistrate who came more recently from college, the appeal court. When that becomes the trend, you know you're losing the moral authority to be there. Going. Moral authority. If you don't hand in that letter, Madam Registrar on her own accord can initiate the process. You understand, ladies and gentlemen? So there should be no errors in the trade of no errors, no shortcuts. Your decisions and actions must be beyond. And what's more, your actions should be worthy of emulation by your juniors, because you are a model, role model, mentor for the people that it means you are in greater problems than the people you lead. That's why they can leave office at 5 and go home. But you couldn't try to leave office at 5. You have to stay and lead those case laws of yours, so that you are ahead of them, as we shall see shortly. It is very important. Now, number 3, a leader must prepare to to suffer personal sacrifices for the sake of the people. Jesus, you see, we say he was crucified. Do you think he didn't know that the crucifixion was on the way? Did he know? He knew. He even said clearly who will do it. And he said he's not one of you. Did he know? Maybe 2 days before, one of you is going to teach us, the disciples, that soon we will not be together, at least not physically. My Lord, Master, what will happen? One of you will give me away. Did you watch the movie? No. Jesus, but even Peter, he said, and one of you will deny me 3 times. They said, you will do that. I don't know whether at that point he had been approached or so Jesus knew. Remember, there's even a guy who somebody threw a knife and cut off his ear, but what did he do? Quickly restored it. He knew, yet he did not run. He stood firm, because a leader must be prepared to pay even the highest price. So, anyway, they crucified. But see what happened. Elisha resurrected. So, even you as a leader, even if they crucify you, just stay firm, because you will receive your own kind of resurrection. So don't give up, don't run away. That brother said that he will hit you. Would Jesus have been afraid of being hit? No. So, preparedness. But can you think about it this way? No, it's on close scrutiny. When you read the scriptures with a critical mind, then you ask yourself the question, what if Jesus had not been crucified? What trajectory Christianity have taken? And you know, the resurrection is an important turning point, isn't it, in Christendom. So it may very well be okay that Judas betrayed Jesus. In any case, it had been prophesied. So Judas had to do what he did in order to fulfill the prophecy. So those of you who have been afraid to name your children Judas, on closer inspection, he helped us fulfill the prophecy and gave Christianity the strength that it has today. That God gave his son, remember that line, to us. And he died for my sin and yours. Now, what if he had not died for that? Now, what did you say at that point? It would be very difficult to just. So anyway, so a leader must be prepared to sacrifice, ladies and gentlemen. Sacrifice time. So you can't leave the office at 5 just like the rank at 5. Stay on, ensure things are in order. Energy, emotion, it's emotionally draining because you are bearing the burden of other people. So it takes toll on your emotion, much more than your physique. And then family, then you don't have as much time. You reach home at 9 p.m., so on. Saturday afternoon, you're back in the office to write the to write the judgment. Because you are the one who will be cautioning others for delayed judgment. So if you are if you are delayed in yours, what more authority do you have? You see how leadership is not easy. So you must stay up late in the night, finish yours by Sunday, by Monday 2 a.m. Notice the time. Monday 2 a.m. you have now just finished. So you sleep a little bit. By 7:30 you are in the office and you want a report of the status of judgments. Now you can ask for that without it. Before you finish yours. So you must be prepared to be admonished, you must be prepared to suffer material losses, because while some people are busy looking for money in town, you are busy making sure the station is in order. Man shall not live on bread alone. Notice the happiness in your heart and the peace in your mind, knowing that all the judgments are go-getter, no. Right somewhere, this, I have not plagiarized anybody, I just created this. I was reflecting on these things. A leader, so you can tell people, I am a go-getter and no, the job must be done. Then you are, but a leader who returns home with excuses for why the work was not done, and you think the excuse is so romantic. No excuse can pass the test of romance. For once it is an excuse, it has lost the fundamentals of romance. Maybe it is like what we call this Valentine's Day. So you are coming, people are expecting flowers, you are coming with a story. I almost bought. In fact, can it make up for the not getting the flowers? Bring the damn flowers. That's all. How exactly you make it happen is not our business. Just deliver the flowers. So, this is so. Some leaders have a challenge. You know, they find that it's just giving excuses. Excuses for the job not done, and he believes that these excuses are good enough. He can be absolved of responsibility. The situation was beyond us. And for how long should we accept that? We have to replace it. You know, I'll give you two very quick examples. One time, there was a visiting deputy president of Tanzania for some days, and there was supposed to be a banquet for him at Nairobi, some hotel. And obviously, I was going to be the MC. And yet I had work to do in Mombasa. And while I thought I would be in time for my flight to Nairobi and for the dinner, the jam at Kibarani seemed to stand in the way of that dinner. And it was clear that if I would lose this flight, therefore I will not be at the banquet, therefore I should find a romantic excuse, which is obviously unacceptable. So I jumped onto a boda. Praying. So now you leave the security behind. It's a matter of life and death. The job is in the line. As you got into Mombasa airport, you know there's a police check just before you get inside. I said, now if I lose another 2 minutes, no. I said, let's just. So we go to the police check. I stopped, introduced myself, I didn't give them a chance to ask a question. introduced myself, and I said, I must catch that flight in the next 2 minutes. And I sat on the border. We continued. We did not wait for an answer. Because there was no time to negotiate, you know. Another short while, I was airborne. And in time for, can you imagine calling the vice Could you do that? You want to tell the Chief Justice that I found the feature. So I tried to go downwards. If I'm the Chief Justice, I will stop you in the middle of the sentence. And I will replace you. You know, during the colonial period, during the colonial period, the heroes were the people who fought for independence and were detained in Miami, Lamu, so on and so forth. And during the first elections, people campaigned on the ticket of having been detained. So they would go on stage and say, we were detained by the colonialists, but we insisted on independence. Now vote for me. Now those who had not been detained at all, or jailed at all, but wanted to be elected, had a serious problem. On what ticket? On what grounds? What had you achieved? You know, the only achievement that you make was to have been detained. That's the ticket you. So some people would go to the village somewhere and beg to be jailed. Even for one night. So that I can have that rubber stamp. That credential. So they begged to be jailed. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, a leader must not be afraid. Don't say you break the law, but get the job. So long as it's in the interest of the country, of the society. Other things we'll discuss. You normally give room for litigation. Number 7, we're going to finish. Must be knowledgeable. Must be knowledgeable. To supernatural levels. So you have to have answers for all questions. Not just legal questions. Your junior can come and say, you know, this case is difficult. I don't know, this and that, so on, which is okay, because juniors must ask those of us who have been in the game for longer. And you are supposed to do that. But even if he is free also to come and say, my spouse has run away. Even that one, you must have an answer. You're a leader. Imagine your junior might solve it in 30 seconds. Where does that leave you? So, capacity to solve problems. So you must be creative and innovative somehow. An answer is found. In fact, you can tell, like that guy whose spouse has run away, you can listen. What kind of answer might you give? Yes? Atarudi. That's why some people you ask, you know, you say, Paka kitoka. No, you're supposed to say, just go for training more and more, because knowledge cannot be achieved once and for all. Coming. And we have programs such as problem solving, programs, critical thinking, and so on. All right. You must be trustworthy, ladies and gentlemen. If you are a leader, the people you lead must be able to trust you. Now, if they don't trust you, that is even risky for disobedience. They'll disobey you. And the worst thing, you know, in political philosophy, you say, I think it's the Machiavelli in The Prince. You know, The Prince is a book, but it was written as a letter. It was a letter municipality of the time, written by Machiavelli, as an advice to the prince who he thought wasn't doing things exactly the right way. So if you open the first page of Machiavelli, you can see it starts as a letter. Dear, it gives me honor. And he goes on to say that, people come to you with gifts, gold, so on. But as for me, I share with you out of that which I have, which is just ideas. So he goes on to share some of the tips about how to get power and how to retain power and so on. So regarding how to retain power, one of the things that you must know is give orders and instructions that could be disobeyed. If for some reason you suspect that an order you are about to give might be disobeyed, don't issue. Don't issue. You get it? Don't issue. Hold on. Reflect. See whether the situation changes such that now if you issue, or set the stage for it to be obeyed. But a leader whose orders are disobeyed one after another, that leader, in fact, would suffer. Sooner or later will not find himself or herself leader. And Madam Registrar will learn about it and will tell you, look, the people in the station no longer have confidence in you. How do I help you? Oh, it's justice. And as I said, I'm not blaming anybody. It is our system. We have to fix it there. We are collectively responsible. Even those who are out here, like myself. And for me, I made a contribution. One time when I saw we had 54,000 people, and almost 35,000 in remand. I said, so then I needed the president to help me release some 11,000 through presidential amnesty. So then I went, but then I explained that the cause of this very well be that we have very few judges. And at that time, I think the Constitution had a limit of 55 or some ridiculous thing. Wasn't it? About 50, 55 or something. I said, but look, a country like Canada, with the same population as Kenya, had 1,500 judges. Why should we have few? And that's how very quickly after, some of you, or you, I don't know, you are not just, I was invited to all the swearing-in sessions of new judges. No, none of you would have understood why. Because we had to make sure that there are enough judges. Let's start from there. Then we move on to other judicial officers and so on. It should not be that a case is heard today, then the next time, this is March, the next mention is November. Now, let's have enough officers, isn't it, to sort these things. So, but now, there could be other ways of solving. Our jurisprudence seems to be more sophisticated than the society it is meant to function in. So you have a guy who owns this car, it's called, is it Ferrari or Lamborghini or something? Children talk about it. It is about 3 inches off the ground. Ground clearance is 3 inches. Then it is highly sophisticated with sensors and so on. If the climate, the weather changes a little bit, it sends signals to the dashboard and so on. Now, if you buy that kind of car, and the year is about 50 million, not that car. In Kenya, then you have to go Ukogwetu. Once you get off the tarmac a little bit, the car stops. Then it sends signals. Road dusting, road dusting. The road is dusting. Now, friends, is that car fit for this society? So why do we operate a jurisprudence that is not fit for a society that is not as sophisticated? You know, this powers. If there is a case, people should just sit under tree. You sit to this side, for 15 minutes, you sit to this side. And the matter is finished. A lot of them are of that kind. And that's why I like this ADR. Sindio, it will help. So most cases push them in that direction. Push them. Take a decision. Someone, you can do a workshop with your officers, sit down and look at which ones. It's allowed in the law, isn't it? Yeah, and deal with it. Now, transformational leadership, therefore, is that bridge between the present that is not as desirable, such as delayed cases, remember, we talked about this, and the desired future that we seek to see. So it is transformational leadership that will help us cross that Red Sea to Canaan. Public servants in leadership positions, such as each one of us here in this room, have obligation to embrace the tenets of transformational leadership, such as we have discussed, from bearing the burden of the society, to being trustworthy, to being honest, to being transformational, to being go-getters and no-quitters. Thank you very much for listening.